Hey y'all, it's Emmy here. Don't worry, the other girls didn't quit the podcast. We just wanted to record our predictions for Australia since we didn't really record an F1 episode last week. So just here to prove, it's before FP1, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that for me it's going to be pole for Charles, then P1 Max, P2 Charles, and P3 Checo. And my crazy prediction, it's going to be that both Williams are going to be on point.
So for pole, I will go with Charles. P1, Charles. P2, Max. And P3, we'll go Oscar. Do a podium in his home race.
These are my Australia predictions. We have Charles P1, Danny P2, Oscar P3, and I think for a crazy prediction, I'm going to say that Valtteri gets P8.
For pole, I have Charles Leclerc. For the podium, I have first place Max Verstappen, second place Charles Leclerc, and third place Oscar Piastri. And my crazy prediction this week is that all three of our home Australian drivers, Oscar Piastri, Daniel Ricciardo, and of course Valtteri Bottas, will end up in the points.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cool Down Room. We are your hosts. I'm Maria.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Emmy.
And join us today as we recap the week of the Australian Grand Prix. So Australia brought us the first home race of the season for three drivers now, I guess, seeing as Australia has now adopted Valtteri Bottas as their own. But with home races comes one of my favorite things, which is home helmets and special helmet designs. So we had 4 of those this week.
I just want to say Valtteri's was the best out of the 4. And if we don't get a mini helmet, I'm rioting.
I personally think Joe's was better than Valtteri's because Joe's honored Valtteri on his.
I agree.
Like Joe put Valtteri on his.
Okay, Joe is my number 2, but like anyone who knows me personally knows I love hot dogs. Hot dogs, corn dogs, ketchup. Like, it's kind of a problem, honestly. And the fact that he had hot dogs on there and ketchup and mustard.
The trifecta.
Sign me freaking up. I know.
Are you also here for the sausage sizzle then? Because that's what the top of the helmet says.
I want his hat. But I can't find it anywhere. I tried looking on his website and other places. I cannot find it anywhere. I don't know if it's a me thing or he just hasn't put them up yet.
So you may have liked Valtteri's with the hot dogs because that's very specific to your interests. But I feel like Joe wins for also presentation because he dressed up as Valtteri to present the helmet, which has Valtteri on the back of it. So that was a fun little thing. And when I saw the picture of Joe holding the helmet dressed as Valtteri, I was not convinced it was him. I glanced, I was like, who is that?
Yeah, I did a double take on that. I was like, wait, what?
I was confused as well. But did y'all see the little koala bear he had on there with the boba?
That was so cute.
It's just super bright and colorful, and it's so fun. The drivers have said multiple times that the helmets are kind of the one thing that they can do to express themselves. So seeing this level of fun expression, just you can tell that he had a good time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a lot of good little tidbits on his helmet. He had the kangaroo crossing sign, and then he had the plane ticket from Shanghai to Melbourne. And I feel like he had something else on there, but I can't really remember besides Valtteri's head. I was kind of disappointed in Oscar's helmet, I'm not going to lie. It looked good. Let me rephrase that. He has a really good helmet. I loved the color decor on it, the orange and blue, but I think it was so plain compared to the other people.
Yeah, it was too much of the same. It was just too similar to his regular helmet, so
it was
it was my favorite.
Kind of.
It was my favorite.
It would be
I thought I liked Daniels. I thought it was personally a little bit too busy. I just liked that Oscars gave me the whole night in the Outback, if I ever go out to the Outback, that's what I would want it to be like the stars in the sky, those oranges with the blues. It was very aesthetically pleasing to me. And I want the mini, I want the t-shirt, and I want the hoodie. I want it all.
It was really pretty. But if I were to buy a helmet, I would only want Valtteri's, like, #1 priority. But I wouldn't mind Oscar's. I just love the little stars on the top. It's so cute.
Maria loves blobs and hot dogs.
I really do.
She makes blobs with her ketchup and her mustard.
Dude, I used to actually, side note, I would eat so much ketchup that I would get sores in my mouth from the acidity from them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love ketchup. But anyways, Emmy, you saw Lando on the chicken shop date. What were your thoughts on it?
I think it was really adorable. And something I saw on Twitter, and I feel like being Lando, it might be true, is that you can tell in so many parts he's holding back what he actually wants to say. But people were saying that because the team was there, maybe like, you know, PR, just be careful. You can see in his face that he's like holding back so many comments. But it was really funny. It was my first time watching like that show. I didn't even know about it before we saw like the Lando episode. But I really like it. It was really fun. A really fun format.
It was really cute. I was smiling pretty much the whole time. There were a couple parts where I was just like, oh. Just from like shock that she would say that, but not really, because like it's her. She's hilarious to me. She has very dry humor, and it was kind of funny seeing his reactions to her like flirting with him.
I did see some clips of it. It was pretty funny.
It was. I liked it.
No, she did not hold back. She made some comments that were like, ooh. But it was really fun to watch.
I loved her comments. I think she does great with anyone that she talks to on the red carpet. I'm not going to say the other chicken shop dates because I haven't watched them, but I have seen videos of her on the red carpet. She does very well with communicating and like going back and forth with the other person. I don't know how she does it. I wish I could do that.
I thought it was like watching the video, it just gives you those vibes of first date. And I think that was like really fun. And because even like those clips that you get in the middle of the episode that are like just the store or someone like who works there, I feel like that adds to that awkwardness of a first date. So I think it's really fun to watch. I don't really want to make any comments on what they actually said because it's like 5 minutes long. So whatever we say, it's a spoiler for the whole thing. But I will definitely recommend you guys go and watch it because it was fun.
Same. Recommended as well.
I think everything about the weekend was just like vibes. Like the Australian GP just has the best vibes across the board. Like it's just so fun. I want to go to Melbourne so bad. Like I want to go this race.
I was seeing the overview shots from F1 TV. That place is huge.
Yeah. They also beat their attendance record. They set a new attendance record this year. So
wasn't that on Friday?
It's like I know they set a record for, because they tweeted it this morning. It was like overall record for the weekend. It was like over 450,000 people. And I was like, that's a lot
insane.
of people.
They really do a lot with the driver engagement and like having those like fan connections with that Melbourne walk and having, because not all races have driver engagements either. So having both of those things really gives that opportunity to the fans to be able to like have that quick meet with their favorite driver, potentially get a photo, signature, or whatever. So it's nice that they have all those opportunities there.
I saw a TikTok of a girl who was setting up for the Melbourne walk, and she was there at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah, they get there early.
That will be me.
I mean, if I was there, like I would do the same thing, but just thinking about it and not being there, I'm like, ooh. But I mean, we also would go to the fan zone as soon as it would open, and we would wait like what 2-3 hours for them.
Yeah, we would at Coda. We got there. Emmy got there. Thank goodness for Emmy.
Like 5:30.
Yeah, and then I booked it as soon as the gates opened. I have not run that fast and that long in a long time. And yes, we secured front row at driver engagement both days.
I think the longest that I waited was 6 hours, and that was to get this hat signed. But even then, I'm still like, oh, 6 hours.
And you were 2 different days waiting, didn't you?
Yeah. We waited, I think, 10 hours, 10 or 12 hours total.
Some things are just worth it, because then you'll regret it if you don't do it. You're like, what could have been? All right, well, this weekend was very eventful. FP1, the big thing that happened was Alex Albon has a big crash in FP1. He breaks his chassis. Therefore, Poor Logan Sargent gets kicked out of his car for the weekend so Alex can drive it because Williams did not have a spare chassis. I still can't believe they did that, honestly, because they basically just killed Logan's confidence. And it was like, well, if you don't trust him, why'd you re-sign him? Why'd you bring him back? What was the point?
And why should we support Logan as fans if you don't support him as your driver?
Exactly. With how subpar that car has been, did they really think they were going to get into the points is the thing. So, yeah, but Haas has been better. It was just, I understand the logic behind it, but it just sucks. And I can't believe that even happened to begin with. And hopefully they don't have something happen in Suzuka because they will not have a spare chassis there either. They're just playing with fire at this point.
I just think it was, I'm not going to say funny, but it was like low-key, high-key funny whenever the commentators said that Alex got a chassis for his birthday.
Logan gifted him his car for his birthday.
Logan's car.
Yep.
All of the birthday memes were funny. There was one where it was the car just like covered in birthday candles as well. That made me crack up.
When he like made a comment about how like the atmosphere in the team was not great after that, and it was like, duh.
Yeah.
What did you expect? Everyone to be like, it's fine. Way to go, Alex. Yay. Like, Logan basically got punished for your mistake.
And then Max's comment where he was like, I would have flattened my car so nobody would have driven it. He had to do it yesterday, take Checo out of the car and take his car after his DNF.
Everyone was joking that they were going to kick Checo out on the next lap and have Max drive his car.
I do have to say about the Logan situation is that in practice 2, he finished P13, which is not terrible. And I feel like being Australia, which is a race that's, no one knows what's going to happen. It can be chaos like last year. Making that decision of not having Logan race and just have Alex, I feel like it doesn't guarantee anything. Like, it's not going to guarantee that he's going to be on points or anything. I mean, at the end of the day, he was not on points. He was P11. I'm going to say this. I feel like there's no enough proof that there was going to be like points secure for Alex. So
I don't think it was necessarily about like points, just that he would have had a higher likelihood based off of the whole history of potentially being able to do it. But also, this is a track that he crashed out on in lap like 6 last year at that same turn, and then crashed out at turn 6 hard enough that he bounced off of 7 and slid into turn 8. Any other track, I would have had more understanding towards it, but
like this weekend, I don't feel like they had enough proof to say, no, Alex is going to do way better, because, I mean, he was not doing good the whole weekend. So.
And part of the statement was also every point like does matter. The midfield is so tight. It was also race 3 of 24.
Yeah.
Or 30 if you're counting all the sprints, because there's some points available there. It's so early on in the season to make those kinds of calls. And you never know. Logan could have been able to get up there and get up in the points, but he may not have. Like, we don't know. And it took away an opportunity for him to be able to prove to himself, to the team, and to everyone else that he can do it.
It just kind of comes back again to, it's like, if your confidence is that low in him, why did you bring him back? What was the point? The whole thing is just super frustrating from the outside, and I can't imagine how Logan feels like. And
that's when I say he's a better person than me, because he stayed there for the whole weekend. When the moment they tell me you're not driving, I will be like on a plane back to my back home, like, bye.
They had an extra driver on the pre-show. I don't know who it was, but they asked him, like, what would you have done in that situation? He's like, I would have left. I wouldn't have stayed. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. I guess he's playing the team game, but at the same time, like, yeah, see you later. Like, you guys screwed me over. I'm out. What else happened? Is there anything else on P1? No, that was basically
Well, it's Carlos came back from his thing as well. The whole 2 weeks chatter was, is he going to be able to race? Is he going to be able to do this? The constant comments on, well, where the lap belt sits is like right across where he had the keyhole surgery. Like, is it going to be okay? He, showed up and did very well the whole weekend.
They had to modify some of the padding so that it didn't put as much pressure on him. I can't imagine, because I know, I've had a few friends that have had the same surgery, and they could barely walk for like 2 weeks after that, let alone get into an F1 car. So it is really impressive. And he was in the top 3 in FP2 and 3. And then obviously he did really good in quali too. So, I mean, he had himself a weekend. The guy had something to prove for sure.
I do want to say that for P1, Lando did, or FP1, he did get P1. So
Rizad's always got to throw out that when he gets P1.
In that case, Charles Leclerc got P1 in FP2 and FP3.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Just throwing that out there too.
Listen, I love Charles too, okay? Love
I
all the
forget that
drivers. Happy
sometimes.
for them all.
I forget that.
I just only have merch for McLaren because it's more accessible than Ferrari merch in stores. So that's partly the only reason why I have a lot of McLaren merch. I say a lot, but I literally only have 2 shirts.
Q1, the big story was Daniel was out and it was track limits. His time, had it not been deleted, was like a 10th behind Yuki, and it would have put him, I think it was P8, something like that. And the thing that pissed me off was he goes over track limits and he had time to abort the lap and restart it, but his team didn't say anything. And it was so obvious. And I'm like, why did you not tell him to abort it? Hello? Are we just like not paying attention? Like, what's going on? So he got absolutely screwed in that. Again, I get it. He went over track limits, but like, it's not like he was consistently like at the bottom and then just went out in Q1. Like there was circumstance behind us. That was frustrating.
And he was so far out of track limits that they could easily say something instead of being like, was it barely? Like, should we try and keep this lap? It was so obviously out that it would have been the better thing to say, abort, do a new one. But nope.
Well, and track limits in total is super frustrating. I mean, I go back to Austria. It was Austria last year that had all those track limits. And it was so bad that it was almost comical because it's like every single lap had, 10 drivers getting their times deleted. And it's like, oh my God, like this is insane. And then Lewis was out in Q2. He has now been out qualified by George in every race so far this year. And I think George also has the race head to head as well.
I think George is really happy about that though on the slide because he would always say that like it's great to be Lewis's teammate because he is a great driver. He has 7 championship wins, and the fact that he's beaten him 4 times, I feel like he's just behind closed doors pumping his fist a little bit. I mean, I would be happy if I outqualified Lewis.
Well, and they're also using Lewis as the like experiment guy right now because they're like, well, you're not here next year, so we don't really care how you do. So we're just going to try everything with you because we know you'll give good feedback. So George is benefiting from that for sure, I think.
But they did that last year too, even before he signed with Ferrari. That's why, like in the first half of the season, he was not doing the best point-wise because they were using Lewis. Like I think he volunteered, I don't remember, but like to test the car, and they didn't. Yeah. They were not prioritizing his race. I mean, I think like it makes sense to have the one with experience to be the one testing the car.
I will say one guy who had himself a great weekend, just low-key, was Lance Stroll. He outqualified Alonso, so he qualified P9. And then with Alonso's penalty, he was P6.
He's quietly in the upper middle part, quietly in the points. Not doing anything amazing, not doing anything terrible. He's just there.
Yeah, he's just trying to keep his head down.
Esteban sneaking into Q2 was kind of funny because he was super
so
surprised
on the radio.
I was very shocked whenever I saw that he made it.
And then Yuki also had a great qualifying. He qualified P8. Yeah, Yuki's just quietly doing his thing this year.
I wouldn't say Yuki is quietly doing his thing the same way that Lance Stroll is quietly doing
No.
And that's purely just because of the whole hype surrounding Daniel and the comments about the RB and everything. So that's going to be highlighted a lot more than anything that Lance Stroll does.
I think there were a lot of complaints from a couple of the drivers about either their like brakes or their tires not working properly.
There were a lot of brake issues this weekend.
And the graining was very high on the tires.
But the big story here, sorry, Emmy, is Max DNF'd after 2 years. And the last time he DNF'd was also in Australia.
He had been complaining about the brakes in practice, in qualifying, and no one believed him because it's Max, like, oh, yeah, he's still doing well. It doesn't matter if he has the brake issue. And then he said in his post-race interview that his right rear brake was like stuck on and then wouldn't cool, just kept getting hotter, and boom, fire.
That was very exciting. And I remember when the smoke started to come out from back of his car, even the commentators were like, oh my God, there's smoke. Is that smoke coming from his car? Is he finally going to DNF? Like, that's how dominant he's been, is that we're all like, oh my God. But it's not like it resulted in a better race, which is the frustrating thing. So it made for just as an equally boring race.
I'm going to disagree with you on the boring part because I actually think that this race was very entertaining for me. Like, we had Max DNFing, Lewis losing his engine and DNFing, George unfortunately like crashing on the last lap, and all the pit stop issues with Sauber, like, even though Max wasn't in it, it was still interesting. And even with Max in it, it's still interesting. You just have to look at the right things.
I'm going to say that for me, it was boring for a whole different reason. And it's just because I don't have my driver on the race. So it's kind of like, meh. But like taking out of the fact that Max was not in the race, I think it was actually enjoyable. Like there were just so many things going on. Ocon with the tear off on the brakes. So I feel like there were a lot of things going on. I think it was Maria who mentioned like not having Max. We know everyone's gonna try to push really hard to try to get at least podium or P1. For me, it was like boring. Like really, like not to say boring, but it's just different when your driver is not on the race because it's like, well, I mean, I don't even know who to focus on, but a lot of things were happening that were worth actually paying attention to. I am going to say that Carlos winning gave us, I think, two very funny moments, especially when he forgot to sing Smooth Operator and then they come the radio and he's like, oh, I forgot. And then on the post race when he's like, I recommend drivers to get their appendix removed. Like, what kind of recommendation is that?
Lando made a post on Instagram and he was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get my appendix removed now so I can win a race. Also,
funny.
Oh my gosh, Gunther was doing the interviews like for the podium winners. It was hilarious because I didn't realize that he was doing it. I don't know if I was looking away whenever they showed him or if they didn't show him beforehand. I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like Gunther. That's so weird that someone else would sound like that. And then it turned out to be him. I was like, I feel really dumb because I was texting my friend about it. She was like, that is him. I was like, oh.
Do you watch the race with Crafty? Because he did say that he was going to be doing the interviews like right before, but he did mention it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I just turn on F1 TV and call it a day.
On F1 TV, if you go to international, you hear Crafty and Sky people. So
I don't do the international one. I flip over to it sometimes whenever there's not a lot of commentary going on for the normal one. But other than that, like I don't think, oh, I'm going to switch on to the international. I should probably start doing it because I do have another friend who listens to it and she really likes it.
Another big thing that happened was George's crash on the last lap. He was behind Alonso. Alonso braked 100 meters earlier than he usually had, and he lost like 3/10 on that one braking point. And then immediately following that was when George lost the car and then he crashed. And then his radio was just absolutely awful to listen to because he's like begging for a red flag because he had crashed into the wall and then was laying in the sideways in the middle of the track. That is like the most vulnerable position you can be in that situation. That was sketchy. Alonso got a 20-second penalty. I understand why he did that move because George was going to overtake him on the DRS, but he got 20-second penalty and 3 penalty points as well. This is an interesting stat that I saw this morning. This is the closest Drivers' Championship has been after 3 races since 2013, and it's the first time the top 3 have been separated by less than 5 points since 2010. Right now, the top 3, Verstappen with 51 points, Leclerc with 47, and Perez with 46. Also, Lando is the holder of a new F1 record. He now holds the most podiums without a win in F1 history with 14 podiums. I'm sure that is a Nick Heidfeld with 13. Yeah, that's definitely not a record that Lando wants, but I mean, his time's coming much longer.
This year.
I hope
I
so.
would say it is better than Nico Hulkenberg's record.
He holds the most race starts without a podium. And then there was one interesting quote from Peter Baer, who is the CEO for VCARB. And he was talking about Daniel specifically. He said he's been helping us to find weaknesses in the car, especially on setup. The relation between aero balance and technical balance is something where he was very helpful, and ultimately Yuki is benefiting from that. I thought that was interesting just because everybody's going to rag on Daniel's struggles right now. He is the one who's going to be able to provide the most feedback so they can fix these problems, which is why he struggled so much.
I think he still has it too. He just doesn't have a car that can give him the performance that he can give in a normal race weekend. But he can get up high because we know Yuki is in the same exact car as him. Yuki's gotten pretty high before in the points. So there's potential for him to also do the same. I was just super happy to see my top 2 teams taking P1 to P4. I just wish that the podium was just a little bit bigger so Oscar could have gotten on there.
Wanted Oscar there so bad.
I know. I really wanted Lando to like give up his spot for Oscar. I know he would never do that. But the thought of him maybe doing that, it was just so wholesome in my mind to get Oscar on the podium there. Give the people what they want.
I think it was really nice when on the, like, at the very end, Carlos radio to say, tell Charles to come closer so we can celebrate together. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Hopefully they have more podium finishes together.
Yeah, it was fun watching. It reminded me of, have you guys seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari? Like, it reminded me of that. That movie, it has a different ending. Not so happy, but still nice. And it was really nice. Also, I was tearing up during the podium celebration when they will show Carlos and his dad. And his dad was like winking at him. I was like, I'm gonna, like, so sweet. Like, I was crying. I was like Maria with that video and with the George and Louis.
The fact that she had me crying as well in my car.
I was crying, then laughing, then crying, then laughing, like...
For context for everybody, in our group chat, Maria sent everybody this TikTok about Louis and George and Louis leaving Mercedes, and she's like, I'm actually crying over this.
I'm going to give some context because you didn't explain it properly.
I'm just going to add the video here.
Where?
Oh, the bing bong sound.
Yeah, they use Bing Bops. What's his name?
Bing bong.
Bing bong. And the movie is Inside Out.
Yeah, the emotions movie, Inside Out.
Movie.
They put the sound where he was like, go save Riley.
She's gonna start crying again.
No, I'm not because there's not a sad video in front of me. But that got the tears flowing like out of nowhere.
That was Carlos Sainz Sr. this weekend, was Maria watching that TikTok. So
it was a very sad video. I'm glad I watched it though. You know, sometimes you just need a good cry.
Yeah, but sharing was not caring in that moment.
Apparently it was because it gave y'all a giggle.
Yeah, but I also was crying in the Target parking lot into my ice cream.
See? So you feel the emotions. It's the sound. It's literally the sound.
I'm calling that movie Emotions, no?
I know. I get it wrong every single time. I'm not even joking. I can never remember the name of that movie. I always call it Emotions.
To add, that movie in Spanish, it's like the translation will be like intense, intensively. It's intensamente. Like, doesn't really make any sense. The name in Spanish. Now that I think about it,
intense feelings, intense emotions.
They're coming out the second one, by the way.
No, I don't want more sad sounds, but I do want to. No, I want to talk about the race. Damn it, Maria. I just wanted to say that even though there was not a current Australian driver on the podium, I was still happy that we got an Australian driver on the podium because Mark Webber handed out the constructor's trophy, and that is all I cared about because I love Mark Webber so much. I just wanted to put that out there because I'm always on the 2008 to 2013 F1 agenda. Mark Webber, forever and always.
Also, all in all, it was a very interesting race weekend. It was very eventful. I'm still reeling about the whole Williams thing.
Justice
Suzuka
for
should be
Logie Bear.
fine. For real, like
Justice for Logie Bear.
he actually signed a sign at the Melbourne Walk that said "Justice for Logie Bear." So
Yep, Justice for Logie Bear.
yeah, I mean,
Justice for Logie Bear. Okay, I'm done now. I'm sorry.
I don't think we heard you enough. Can you do
yeah,
that
I think
one
you
more
need to
time?
yell louder.
One more time. Justice for Logie Bear.
There you go. Inserts. Caca.
All in all, it was a fun weekend for everyone too. That was very. I mean, if you had told me going to this weekend Ferrari would get a 1-2, I'd be thrilled. So, because now there's only 4 points separating Red Bull and Ferrari in the constructors, and then again, there's only 4 points separating Max and Charles. So, you know, chances are we're not going to get a title fight, but maybe some crazy thing will happen. We'll see what happens in Suzuka.
Was it during the race or quali that Zhou's front wing got broken? Because it was the right or the left side of it. Right side if you're watching the TV, but it was the left side of it, and he went over the curb, I think at turn 6 maybe, and afterwards it just kind of flew off, and I have no idea like how
It was
qualifying.
Yeah, it's
because
qualifying.
He started from the pit lane because of that.
I just don't understand how that happens.
He said he had no idea why the wing broke off as he took the usual line through turn 10. I didn't do a mistake on my lap. I was just driving like every single other lap I did. I got to the last sector, suddenly I'm locking up. I'm missing this load, and when I crossed the finish line, I saw the left-hand side was missing. I have no idea where that came from because everything was just normal. But he watched the replay, vibration from the curb of turn 10, but like he didn't notice or feel like that he had hit the curb of turn 10. Just crossed the line and was missing part of the wing.
It's insane. Spooky.
I will say the only thing that I care about for Suzuka is I hope Seb comes back and they do something with those B hotels. Like, I need something, an acknowledgement, or I don't know. I need something. I need my Seb content. I need it yesterday, and I need B's. I need it. That's all. That's all I want from Suzuka. I don't care about the race. I care about the race, but I care more about Seb.
Show us the bees knees.
But every time I see like any like other race content from there, I just see the little bee hotels around the corner and the painted curbs. It makes me happy.
I have a friend that I sent him the picture of Seb when they announced that he was doing the testing, and his comment was, "The queen let him out of the hive again."
Haas had a double points finish, which is impressive, and actually it was Nico's first time since 2020 getting back-to-back points in back-to-back races. Yeah, that's pretty big for Haas. They're handily leading P6 in the championship, so
they're tied with VCAR, both teams with 4 points. Gunther doing the post-race interviews, and for both the drivers and his team get points at the race he does the post-race interviews for, made me giggle.
Oh my gosh. The post-race interviews with Gunther, it was hilarious to me because Charles could not understand them.
Yeah, that was funny.
I was dying. He couldn't understand anything, and I'm just like, poor guy.
He's like,
honestly,
what?
me neither.
And we have to keep in mind how probably loud it is where they were. So
yeah,
doesn't
that
really
too.
help with the situation.
Exactly. We've got Suzuka coming up, and then Shanghai, which will be really fun. We have not raced there since 2019. Isn't Zhou the first Chinese driver to race there? Something like that?
He's the first Chinese driver to race in F1 in general.
So
he'll
something like
be the
that.
first to race at home, which will be good that he gets the opportunity to do that. And it's the first sprint of the season as well.
Sauber, you need to get your crap together and give him a decent pit stop in his home race. Seriously.
Fingers crossed.
I'll do nothing else that we want to add.
Justice for Logie Bear.
I'm gonna add the best edit ever to this episode. It's with Vicki and eagles and the American flag and everything. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube as Cool Down Vroom Pod. That's Vroom with 3 O's, and on X as Cool Down Vroom. If you like this episode and want to hear more, please leave us a review, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye!
Justice for Logie Bear.